Hi, I'm Kaylee Whalen, and this is my plush Sakura dragon, Mochi. And in this video, we'll be giving some travel anxiety and safety tips for trans and non-binary people. I'm not just a trans and non-binary person who travels. I'm a trans and non-binary person who travels because I'm trans and non-binary. And one of the reasons I love traveling is because I often feel very trapped by the gender binary in the United States. I enjoy learning about gender in other cultures and finding community in other countries. During my recent travels in Southeast Asia, I found amazing trans and non-binary communities in several countries with thousands of years of history, including Thailand and Vietnam. So one of the reasons I encourage other trans and non-binary people to travel is because it may expand your own community and possibly expand your understanding of gender. This video is deeply personal to me because over 10 years ago, when my grandmother died, I didn't attend her funeral in Huehuetenango, Guatemala, because I was afraid of traveling while trans and non-binary. So all this month, I'll be visiting Guatemala to see her friends and our extended family and to visit her grave in Huehuetenango. Before you travel, you want to be prepared with researching LGBTQ rights in the state or country you're visiting, especially as a trans or non-binary person, what trans protections there might be and what transgender communities and transgender advocacy organizations might be there for you as a resource while traveling. Doing your research ahead of time ensures you can have a good time in that country when you're there, enjoying local trans and non-binary culture. I am dressed with fashion from Harajuku, Japan, which has some amazing non-binary J-rock and visual K fashion and subculture. So ACLU's website has Knowing Your Rights at Customs and Border Stops. National Center for Transgender Equality also has Know Your Rights at airports and has resources for every state. And the Transgender Legal Defense and Education Fund also has additional resources for knowing rights and laws in different states. So, if you're researching travel internationally, there are several good resources for checking out transgender laws and cultural acceptance around the world. First, I'd recommend checking out ILGA's Trans Legal Mapping Report. They're focused on the 143 UN member countries and are a bit more European-centric, but are a great resource for their guides for advocates on LGBT laws. Equaldex is a community-driven project with over 200 plus countries and regions around the world, tracking markers of LGBTQ acceptance, including censorship of LGBTQ issues, the ability for trans people to change their gender on identity documents, and LGBTQ non-discrimination laws. Now, this one, as it is community supported and regularly updated, has a lot more up-to-date, frequent information as laws shift day to day, although it is less consistent than the ILGA report, as it is community supported and certain countries don't have as many edits as others. So I would take each of these indices with a grain of salt, do your research, and another place to do your research is going to be the Man About World LGBTQ travel blog, which has an LGBTQ travel safety resource that's downloadable for your mobile phone or in a PDF. So they have trans contributors, including Jennifer Finney Boylan, giving advice on LGBTQ travel safety. Finally, I'm going to offer myself as a resource, as I am a transgender traveler, with the blog Trans Worldview. And I'm continuing to build resources and articles about transgender culture in different countries. So far, I've been very focused on Southeast Asia, with some articles I'd recommend you check out on LGBTQ rights in Vietnam and Thailand and Singapore. And I am happy to be a resource with friends in 26 different countries who are transgender, who I have an insight into different trans organizations locally and globally in the places I visited. So you can check out my blog at transworldview.com and email me at kaylee@transworldview.com. I'm going to talk a bit about going through border crossings and screenings at airports. I know there's a lot of content out there about this, so I'll be brief. This can often be one of the most invalidating and anxiety-inducing experiences for trans and non-binary people, so I do want to touch on some important points. So first, for screenings, I have my cute little turtle shell backpack. We're going to take that off, take my laptop out, and we're going to put that on the scanner. So, the electronic body scanners at airports are infamously horrible for many trans people, as they are very gender binary and are going to often lead to additional screening procedures for trans people seen as being outside the binary. In fact, there's even an ode to how awful these scanners are by the punk band Against Me, fronted by trans woman Laura Jane Grace, called Provision L3, which is one of the more famous brands of scanners. So, what you should know going through these scanners is they have a button for male or female. The agent will select that button in just a matter of seconds, assuming your gender. It'll be pink or blue. And if you are read as male and you have anything that might be picked up as an anomaly, such as a chest binder, that will almost assuredly lead to additional screenings because it shows up as something that TSA or another security agency might see as a possible bomb threat or smuggling something. Similarly, if you are read as male and are a trans woman wearing any kind of prosthetic breast forms, that will also be picked up as an anomaly. And as a trans woman who may be no-op or pre-op, what's in your pants will very likely also be picked up as an anomaly. So, what to know is that you have a right, according to TSA, if you're in the United States, to request a private screening. You have a right to request any screenings to be matching the gender of your choice, assuming you identify as binary, because you're really only going to be able to choose a male or female agent. I bet there are some non-binary TSA agents, but probably not widely available for screenings. And what you are going to probably experience is a full body pat down, which can be very awful. So having some documents that you are transgender from a doctor or the little TSA card that you can print out beforehand may be useful to a more invasive search. So remember, this is not going to be a validating experience, but you need to make sure you can do your best to manage your anxiety. All the tips I've given on travel anxiety, you want to prepare before this screening to ensure that you're in a good mental state, because you want to de-escalate any sort of situation and not escalate it by getting angry or having any kind of public display of anxiety that may trigger additional screening. So remember, it's not going to be great. Know your rights. Know if you should request a private screening, you will have a right to do so, and that may in fact ease what you might experience. And always keep in mind that you're traveling so that you can experience the good times of when you arrive, where you want to go, as opposed to this awful experience of being screened at an airport. So a recent statistic shows that 88% of trans people when they travel drive. Now, I've given you some tips on getting through security, and I hope you might be encouraged to try maybe an airplane, or alternatively, where you might be faced with less invasive screening methods, a train or a bus. I have traveled much of Southeast Asia, including across the Cambodia-Vietnam border in buses, and I've also traveled long distances on sleeper trains and sleeper buses. So An air-conditioned train or air-conditioned bus with beds can actually be a great alternative to air travel. That said, you probably do need to take a plane to get to Thailand. One of my experiences in Thailand with taking a sleeper train is that in order to ensure passenger safety, there is a hallway monitor who's making sure no one's stuff gets stolen and everyone who's asleep at night is safe in their cots. Before I went to bed, this hallway attendant saw me taking off my makeup in the sink in the hallway. And they were watching me a little bit, that I looked over at them and was like, "Hi, how are you?" And they were like, "Oh, are you a boy or a girl?" And I was kind of a little offended at first. But in these situations, I try to de-escalate or make a joke. And speaking Thai, I actually made a little joke in Thai about being katoy. And that is a non-binary / trans feminine gender identity. And he laughed. And he thought it was funny that I knew a little bit about Thai gender identities and said, "Oh, I like katoys," and smiled, which is another Thai way of de-escalating is to smile. So for the rest of the trip, he was a bit more friendly to me. But that's okay, because I slept most of that trip. So sometimes those situations might feel a little bit uncomfortable, but being able to smile, laugh it off, make a joke, especially if you know a bit of the local language, may help you get through a sticky situation. As y'all know, I love traveling with a plush. This is my Sakura dragon, Mochi. And I love this because it gives you a chance to kind of de-escalate a situation and build a rapport with someone who might be checking you in at an airport, a train station, or a bus station, or at a hotel before you've even handed them your ID. I traveled through most of Southeast Asia with a hedgehog in my backpack, and that hedgehog led to so many funny conversations that I also know now how to talk about hedgehogs in several different languages because it always led to things like "nalak," your hedgehog is so cute. I had a hotel desk actually try to convince me that the woman manning the desk really wanted my hedgehog so bad she tried to offer me other stuffed animals to trade it for. So plushes help me keep my anxiety down. My Sakura dragon reminds me of my time in Japan, and it also can give me a hug. As you're preparing to travel and when you arrive in another country, please remember that you are an ambassador as a traveler and/or a tourist in that country. Do your best to try to respect local laws and customs, even if some of those laws and customs may seem a bit binary or oppressive to you. Probably the best way to change those laws and customs is not to disrespect them publicly, but to get involved with local trans, non-binary, and LGBTQIA human rights and advocacy groups. So, I, for example, contacted F2M Vietnam and the ICS Center in Vietnam before I had even arrived to learn about local Vietnamese laws and customs for transgender people. For example, while researching trans people and non-binary people in Vietnam, I contacted leaders from the ICS Center and F2M Vietnam, and in fact, a trans woman associated with those groups met me at the airport on her scooter, took me out to dinner, and took me to my Airbnb my first night in Vietnam to make sure I felt welcomed there as a trans person. So be an ambassador. Tell your story while traveling. It may help local trans people feel like there's other people around the world they can relate to. And listen, learn, get to know the local groups, get invited and go to a local event. And if you want to make an impact and make lives better for trans and non-binary people there, respect the laws and customs and take the lead from local activists. If they do believe certain things are unjust, listen to them about how you can help as a tourist, traveler, and/or international human rights activist to change things. So, if you enjoyed this video and it helped you out, please take a moment to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to get notified of future videos, including more travel anxiety tips videos. So, thank you from myself and my Sakura Dragon Mochi. And also, if you have a tip of your own, please leave it in the comments below to help out other travelers who might be trans or non-binary. Thank you so much, and thank you to my patrons and everyone who made this video possible. You can support me on Patreon at patreon.com/Kaylee Whalen. Check out the link below. Thank you.